Hello, everyone. Welcome to another yet exciting and special episode of Eclectica The Different News. Today, this episode I'm hosting with someone very, very special. This is the author's special episode, and I have a fascinating author with me. So, before I call my guest, I will just like to give a brief introduction about him. So, I have Vladimir Jakovljevic with me. He is from Germany and he is the founder of Microbiome Power. Well, more than that, he is the lead author of the book I Microbiome, A Secret to a Healthy and Balanced Human Body. So I have the book with me, and now I will bring the author, and we will have a lot of interesting understanding from the author himself. And let's deep dive into this talk. Hello,
Hello,
Vladimir.
hello, Gagi, and thanks for your kind introduction. And it's also thank you for the invitation to join your podcast. I'm happy to be here to share the story.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and I have read your book, and I was just talking that about. We will talk more about it, and I think there's a lot to learn from you because this book is. I have a copy, by the way. I have a copy with me. Very simple to understand, and you have put up the critical science in such a simple way that I think any science enthusiast, even if they're from non-biological background, can understand what is being spoken of. So I think I have a lot of questions to ask to you today, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting talking with you. So Vladimir, I will shoot my first question. Is that what inspired you to write a book on the microbiome, and what are the key takeaway the readers can expect from reading this book? If you can tell us a little bit on this.
Yes, I will be glad to do that. So first, I have to say a bit about my background, just to understand how I got into the field.
Absolutely.
I did research in microbiology for a long time. I started more than 20 years ago to do research. I did my studies in molecular biology, and then I kind of specialized in microbiology. And this is basically where I was doing my research for many years. And then a couple of months, or actually more than a year ago, I had a contact. Well, I have to say before that, actually, I started my own company called Microbiome Power, which
Yeah.
is actually focused on the science communication, the communication of the topic in the field, and writing and consulting in the field. And then actually a colleague from a new publishing company from India
Mm-hmm.
contacted me. The company is called Let's Author. And this is actually, I have to say, very nice and innovative concept. I think globally, where actually any author can, you start a topic and then any author can write on that topic. So basically, there is a platform. You can log in as a user of the platform, and then you can just add parts. And then actually, a group of authors, global authors, can get together, and they can write on any possible topic. And this is how first I got into contact, and they say, "Oh, Vladimir, I see you. Maybe you would like to write something about the microbiome." And then they just gave some proposal. I don't remember anymore. It was something about maybe nutrition and the microbiome or gut microbiome. And then I was thinking, yeah, this is nice, but actually the field, actually the topic is much broader than that. And then I start like listing things which I thought should be in such a book. At that point I even didn't think about really getting the book together. I was just thinking about, like, giving them a feedback and say, look, nice idea, but
Right.
these are my topics. And then I just wrote a list of topics. And then actually the manager of the company, she called me and said, yes, this looks interesting, so would you like to be our lead author of the book? I said, well, okay. I already know many people in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how the story started. This is how the story started, and we slowly started to get into contact. Finally, we were about 10 authors. Well, actually, we were 10
Wow.
authors, and then authors were from totally different fields of the microbiome research, which was also nice. And then actually it was a bit challenging also to get all these stories together in a kind
Correct.
of similar format, in a similar style. So still maybe they're still not exactly the same style, but actually this is normal if you have a book which is written by a couple of authors together.
Mm.
And yeah, and then slowly actually our list of topics went even beyond of what I initially thought it would be, like a list of topics, so the topics were getting longer and longer. Finally, actually, well, we say, okay, we don't want to have really too long book. At some point you have to stop.
Yeah.
And uh, uh, but I think this is, so far as I know,
Mm-hmm.
there the most complete coverage of the topics in the field. I don't say there are other nice books also which are also about microbiomes in different fields.
Mm-hmm.
There are also a couple of books I know that cover more than one field, maybe two or three fields or four fields. But I think this is the only book that is actually covering, to my knowledge, all current happenings. What is actually going on about there in the research, in the therapy,
Exactly.
in different aspects of the human microbiomes. We're talking
Mm.
about human microbiomes.
Mm.
Of course,
Mm.
the field is much, much broader, because beyond human microbiomes, we also have animal microbiomes, we have plant microbiomes, we have microbiomes in our environment, which
Yes.
could be also, each of them can be a topic for the next book. And yeah, but yeah, as I said, now we focused on the humans.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the name, that this is why where the name came from, we were kind of brainstorming the name for the book. We said, what, you know like human microbiome, doesn't sound very interesting, so how can we call it? And then actually I remember the science fiction. I don't know if you're a science fiction fan,
Yes, I
but
am.
that's nice. But there is a book of a cult author, Isaac Asimov, I, Robot. Where actually it's about these three laws of robotics, and why the robots can serve humans but do not hurt humans. And there was a movie, I think, also later. And yeah, and then I remember the story. Actually, it fits quite well with the story with the microbes. Because basically they live within us, and they
Yes.
uh, they serve us. They serve us in a very good way. But actually they don't want to hurt us. But if we give them wrong orders, the problems may happen. Or if we try to remove some of them, for example.
Correct.
Yeah, so then we get into troubles. So this is shortly about the background. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, well, I think I have read the book, and as you rightly said, I agree completely with you that within these five parts of the book and with the 19 chapters, I believe you have covered a whole lot of things that were related to the human microbiome, particularly focusing on the health of the human body and how they are related. And which I personally liked is the tone, the simplicity of this, the language of the book. So that is very interesting, and it intrigues the reader to go ahead to the till the last end of the book. So well then, so how has the scientific understanding of regarding microbiome, evolved over the years, and what is your opinion, or what would you like to highlight in this aspect? What do you think in this aspect?
Well, depends how far you want to go in the past. If
Mhm.
we go long time back in the past, people even didn't know that microbes cause disease. They thought actually disease is coming from bad air, or I don't know, whatever how they call it,
Yeah.
ether. Yeah, and then gradually we learned that microbes cause disease. They can cause disease. But now actually. With our the developments, with the last developments, I would say not so long time ago, it maybe in the last 20 years also, we start to learn that actually, not necessarily the microbes. For example, if you take one single microbe, and you think about, okay, this is now let's say a pathogen, but it's not necessarily always pathogen, because basically what we find is that sometimes you have within a normal microbial community within the body, we have this bacteria. You find this bacteria, but we still don't get sick from that bacteria.
Correct.
So
Correct.
how what happens? And then basically the new tech, actually, this was also the development of technology which followed
Mm.
up.
Mm.
And without that development, we wouldn't be able to see the picture.
True.
Actually, the crucial thing in the technology development basically was the development of these new DNA sequencing technologies,
Yes.
which basically started to happen from sometimes from late 90s up to early 2000. And then first companies appeared, and now we have this field really booming, in the sequencing. And then we start seeing things that we couldn't see before, because basically what we could see before in the microbiology, I'm talking about, like
Mm-hmm.
growing microorganisms. So you could only see the microorganism that you can grow on a plate, and then you can see
Right.
how they look like, and or maybe you can look if they use some metabolites, some chemicals, and this is basically all what we could see. But now actually with the new technologies, we start to see actually that there's much more into it. And some people in the field actually like to call it microbial dark matter, because basically it's kind of something which is there. So it's
Mm.
not ether like in the middle age, so it's something there, but actually we cannot cultivate it, we cannot see
Yes.
it. and
Right.
uh, and this is actually where the story started to develop, because then the people start to realize the diversity, how many different organisms or microorganisms we have there,
Correct.
and this was basically the breaking point. And it's like, okay, they say, look, if we have this kind of community, and if we shift the balance in the community, or if we
Mm.
change one or the other player in the community, then
Mm.
we may get into a problem. No,
Right.
not necessarily, but we may get into a problem.
Right.
This was one thing. This was one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other thing was actually, beside technology, these were experiments. People did it in the laboratories,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the laboratory, one very important, style of experiments, so to say, was with the microbiome transplants. So that means that people took the stool samples with microbiota from one animal, for example, from a rat or from a mice,
Okay.
and then transplant it to another animal, and then they'll see what happens. And we have just like a super simple situation, which I think was cited many times in different papers and articles, and I think we also mentioned it in the book somewhere. Actually, they have obese mice. They have mice who are like super fat, you're obese, and then they take
Okay.
the stool transplant from obese mice and put into a lean mice. A lean mice
Mm-hmm.
became obese, you know, and that was kind of like something. And then they say, oh well, there's something there, because
Right.
obviously this microbiota influences somehow our eating behavior. Why
Yes.
why do we need to, why we become obese, and this was one example, and then later also there were other examples, where people are looking at different syndromes. They look in the metabolic syndromes. They look in different kinds of even neurological diseases, or different kinds of disorders, health disorders. And then we start realizing actually there's much more into it than just like that they are just there,
Mm-hmm.
and then the people start to realize these different roles in
Right.
metabolism, in immunity, and the communication. And this is how actually the story started to develop. And this then we got now to the point where we are now, where we realize actually, due to this communication, this is a mutual communication between us and them,
Mm-hmm.
and then due to this communication, we have possibility now to maybe tune this a little bit, I would say, and then use this in different aspects. We can use that in maybe like on one side you can use it as a prevention, let's say, to improve our health, or
Right.
even to boost maybe our fitness or our health. This is one aspect. The other aspect is to use this in a therapy, just
Mm.
directly in a therapy,
Okay.
like with like a targeted changes in the microbiome. This
Okay.
is one possibility. The third possibility is basically that we combine this now with the
Mm.
existing therapies. So we have existing therapies, which we will talk maybe in a few minutes
Sure.
about, and then this is another example. We can combine the existing therapies with the tuning of the microbiota to improve the existing therapies.
Mm.
This is actually kind of examples.
Right, right. So, so do you think that our understanding of microbiome, or the understanding of the scientific community, particularly, can actually inform public health policies in that way? What is your take on this aspect?
Definitely. I would say definitely yes. The answer is definitely yes, big yes. Because actually we have to change the way of thinking, how the people. I mean, one very simple example is basically overuse of antibiotics. We
Exactly.
have, which actually has been happening since decades. We have this since decades. The massive use. I think since the middle of 20th century and discovery of penicillin and massive start of use of penicillin. We didn't realize that, but people start realizing now all different problems we have. I mean, one simple problem is that we don't have any more antibiotics that we can use. I mean, imagine you have like all weapons, and you use all weapons, and none of these weapons work anymore. So basically our arsenal of weapons is kind of exhausted.
Right.
We don't have any more weapons against certain microbe. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
And yeah, this is one thing. And then of course, yeah, this has to bring change in the policy
Right.
of like which is already happening. I think in many countries
Yes.
is already happening, and
Yes.
the doctors are aware of that. But I think the what is very good in the fields, actually there are studies now about this. There are global studies and global projects on studying antibiotic resistance, and then the more and more studies we see, actually we see the effects actually are much more dramatic than we previously thought. And we find these resistant bacteria everywhere, really literally everywhere you look you find them. And this is one thing. And then the other thing is also our behavior. Not just in therapy using the
Mm.
antibiotics, but in our approach to nutrition, for example.
Yes.
And then also we see that actually since the beginning of, let's say, the industrialization era, you can see that all around the world. I think sometimes people think that the obese people are only found in the United States, but that's not true. Basically in China now we have more obese people than in the United States, and we have obese people in India, and we have obese people in India and Africa and everywhere. Really, literally this is kind of like a global disease. And we have to ask, why is that? What happened? What changed in our behavior? Well, okay, we are sitting a lot now, and so, but that's not enough to explain that. Basically, there are things that change in our lifestyle. Basically in our
Yes.
nutrition and the lifestyle. So this is one thing also that has to be considered by public authorities and people who make decisions.
Mm.
And then of course there are also other possibilities that we might use the beneficial strains. So beneficial, I say, because I don't like the idea, and we repeat that in the book several times, the concept of good and bad. there
Consider
there is
good.
there, yeah, there is no good and bad bacteria. all
Correct.
bacteria are good all bacteria are good and all are bad. So I mean, in some sense, they can be good or bad. But of course there are certain bacterial strains or certain groups of bacteria that actually can produce substances which can then communicate with our immune system,
Mm.
and they can have effects. Can have beneficial effects. Of
Right.
course, the question is now, this is the science for itself. We have like a separate part on that, and there are many experts in the field who work on that. What are these strains, and what are the dosage, and what are the best ways to apply them. Then of course there is another aspect which is also very important. This is a legal aspect, because actually we have so far, I mean, our repertoire of these strains is very limited. We have maybe
Mm.
around a bit more than 200 bacterial strains that are officially registered as probiotics,
Okay.
and
Yes.
this is also due to the fact to this dark matter which I mentioned, because we just know 1% of bacteria, and there are
Yes.
many things that we are discovering new and new ones, but
Mm.
from the point when they have been discovered to the
Mm.
point where they might be licensed as a probiotic, it can take a significant amount of time, and maybe
Yes.
they have some great effects, but we still don't know, and there are some examples. There are some examples. I think we also maybe mentioned a few examples in the chapter about probiotics, about this next generation of probiotics, so to say, this new ones that people are discovering. But as I say, legal aspects are there, and
Correct.
then we also have different regulations in the United States, different regulations in the European Union, and
Yes.
honestly, I don't know much about regulations in India or in the other parts of the world. But there has to be. This is also something which is a job for the public authorities. They have to think about these regulations, the registration of these products, so that they become more quickly accessible to the people. Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for that. And well, I think you have a very versatile profile, and a lot of experiences. So my next question is related to that. So in addition to writing, you have also worked as scientific coordinator, project manager, and consultant. So how have these experiences informed your perspective on the microbiome and scientific research broadly?
Well, I would go one step back. Maybe I would say I've been working, as I said in the beginning, I've been working a long time as a researcher, and this is basically my first occupation. I'm a number one. I'm a researcher. I like to do research, and in whatever sense, but I like to do research. And then
Mhm.
yeah. So certainly, yeah, because I have seen different worlds, so to say. And so, because there is also something which is typical for the scientific community, that it's like a community for itself, and there are certain ways how the scientific community lives, and the rules. And on the other side, you have the people who are on the other side. You have people who are in the industry, who are working in the corporate world, and they have different kind of setup, the mental setup, I would say, maybe.
True.
Although the borders are not that, I would say it's not black and white. There are certainly
Mhm.
very good scientists who have a entrepreneurial mindset, and then also there are also other entrepreneurs who also might have like a research or scientist setup.
Correct.
It's not that strict, but still there are differences between the communities, I would say. And
Mhm.
then I think what is missing is the link, actually, is the bridge between these communities, because
Mm.
there is often lack of communication or lack of understanding. And of course, then there is a third world, which I also didn't mention. This is like a public sector, like a governmental sector, or a sector
Correct.
which is basically the people we just mentioned, who are
Yes.
basically in some legislative bodies or somewhere, who are making decision about things. And this would be also another group to communicate. Yeah. So these are like a three different things. You have to be, and you have to sit with these people. You have to talk to them to see how they think. How they really work. And then you understand actually the different perspectives. I mean, this is one thing. The other thing. Yeah, these are different forms of communication, I would say, because this is also very important. We have to understand, as we are talking now, I cannot now tell you, they have been producing, three cyclical peptides, whatever, blah blah blah, some scientific terms, and then uh, you say, oh, I don't understand anything. My interest got lost at some point. Uh,
Correct.
so you have to also to adapt your way of communication. Uh, and then you have to think about how to adapt to this particular audience. There is like a like speaking to general audience. There is also another way speaking to entrepreneurs, and they're what they want to hear. And there is also there's also something in between. There
Mm.
is also, like, there are people who I say, for example, I also mentioned in the beginning, the book is in, like, this book has been actually made for general audience, but we also think, because there are many interesting parts which could be interesting also for people who are, like, I would say, experts in the, not necessarily in the microbiome field, but for the
Mhm.
people who are maybe experts in different field, like, let's say, medical field, and
Correct.
then for them would be interesting to just to get an overview and to know,
Yes.
okay, say, well, look, this is maybe some aspect I didn't really take care much about that aspect. Maybe if I go and dig deeper into that, then maybe I can learn more about it. And as I said, there are tons of literature out there you can find, and you can go in each of these 19 chapters. You can go and read more. Yeah, but this is one thing, just to make things more transparent and understandable. And then I think the communication goes. And this is basically the only way how it works.
Right. So Vladimir, you were mentioning that you are a primarily you are a researcher. So can you discuss any ongoing research or promising areas of inquiry related to the microbiome that you are particularly excited about?
Oh yes, yes. There are different areas that are really kind of really hot topics at the moment.
Okay.
I don't think we have much time to go in details in each of them. I maybe just would mention, as I mentioned, for example, just previously I mentioned the antibiotic resistance.
Correct.
So there is also one particular part of the research going on now. Well, not just research; it's already quite a bit in the application phase.
Mhm.
This is a phage therapy. Because there are small viruses which are specific for bacteria. They eat bacteria, so to say. That's why they call it bacteriophage. They eat
Yeah.
bacteria,
Mhm.
and these phages actually they are known for quite a bit of time. We know about them since 100 years or more, a bit more than 100 years. Actually, they are not, we know that they exist. But then, and what is more, paradoxal, basically that these organisms, phages, they have been like a key for fundamental understanding of molecular biology. The phages were the key to understand that the DNA is important for the transferring the genetic information, not the protein.
Mhm.
And then the phages are key, to understand the mutations and so on and so forth. So uh, and they have been used also in as a therapy during the former Soviet Union time, and in the after the Second World War. They were like normally used in a therapy in the countries of the former Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union and the other Eastern Bloc countries. And I also mentioned that in that chapter about phage therapy. It's a nice story, and if you go on my webpage, there we have blogs, and I think there's also like an interview I had with a professor who is actually also a CEO of the company in the United States, and there is also like a story about this history of phage therapy from Georgia, from former Soviet Union. This actually is the center of the phage therapy.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is also very interesting story, and they have been kind of ignored in the West, I would say, and then but since last couple of years, mm, the interest is getting again higher, and there are already in the United States there are several companies who are actually already doing phage therapy, producing phages for the therapy. Not only for the therapy, they also produce for different things. For example, for preservation of food. Yeah, because for example, you can spray phages on the food and it doesn't get spoiled with bad bacteria. With bad, I don't like the word bad, but with the bacteria that can cause disease. For example, with salmonella or listeria or some this kind of bacteria. And um, uh, and then uh, yeah and then in Europe we have problem because actually also again the legislation problem because here you cannot register a live phage as a therapeutical product or any kind of application in the food industry or in a in a medical field. You cannot register phage as a product. You can only maybe register like a phage product, like let's say a protein that is
Mhm.
produced by a phage. That you can do, but not the live phage. And this is something I think has to be changed because now as we learn more about the how powerful is this therapy, I think this is something the same like with probiotics. It's also
Correct.
going back to connecting back to this topic of communication.
Yes.
So this is another thing. Then another thing which is also super interesting. This is basically the cancer co-therapy. We know actually that in the last time there has been yeah, there are new developments in the cancer therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Before we had the therapy with the chemostatics,
Yeah.
the
Chemotherapy.
chemotherapy, right? Yeah, so chemotherapy, and we had also the radiotherapy, with the
Yes.
radiation therapy. But now,
Mm.
since like a couple of years, we the new kinds of therapy which are based on the immune response, because because we learned that the cancer can modify the immune response. Basically, they hide themselves from the immune response, and this is basically not going into details, but they're complete. There's a complete new field of
Mm.
therapies which is called like immune cancer, immune oncotherapy, they're called,
Mm. Mm.
and there actually there has been interesting findings that the efficiency of this therapy uh, is really quite different between different people, and then when people looked in the individual differences, actually they found a huge difference in the microbiota uh,
Oh. Oh.
between these people, and then by tuning the microbiota, they could get a better response to the cancer immune therapy, which is something that is really now really hot topic.
Interesting.
And there are several companies already
Okay.
who are actually producing new therapeutics, and there's
Hmm.
many of them actually in the process of different clinical phases, but there many of them actually close to register these products.
Right. Right. So
This,
thank you
this is
for, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thanks for enlightening us with all these new areas of therapy related to the microbiome
Yeah.
and how how the landscape is entirely changing. I feel that the future the future that we will be inside is more promising in terms of diagnostics and therapeutics when it comes to using microbes in that way, in the correct way. So, well. Well, Vladimir, like a person like you who has a very diverse background in both research and communication, um, what advice would you give to aspiring science writers or researchers interested in public engagement?
Okay. Yeah, maybe just before I answer your question, I just have to say one more thing I didn't mention. This is
Yes, please.
actually the data science, which is also behind, because I
Yes.
also want to say there is a huge amount of data which is produced now through the new technologies and analysis of microbiome,
Hmm.
and from this data, basically we can get clues, and there are also companies in the field who are actually now doing data science to give us more clues about how to direct the therapies in which way, so
Right.
and this is also quite important, yeah. So what would I say to the to the young researchers? I mean, first of all, I think also going back to the science communication, I think also a very important thing, and this is actually the communication to the young scientists,
Hmm.
if we are talking about young scientists. I think a very important thing is that the scientists from very early days they learn what are the possibilities, except doing your work in the laboratory, what else can you do, so because many people we all have our natural talents, so to say, but many people they're not aware of different ways, and I think it's very important just to show people the opportunities, to say, there's also, there also you can do career in science communication. There are many
Absolutely.
people doing great career in that, and also this is also very important for the reasons we just discussed. uh and yeah, I can just say, if you feel you have something to say, just don't be afraid, just try. There are different ways, especially nowadays. I grew up in the time when there was no internet, and actually just starting, and nowadays, I mean, there's so many different ways to communicate your ideas and things, and just don't be afraid to try, and I think it's also very important because I think there are many clever and nice people who would have something to say and who see things, but I think their voice has to be heard, and this is actually, I will always encourage anybody who thinks he has something to say, because we saw, for example, let's say just go back 1 year ago during the COVID crisis. We have a tons of misinformation about things. The people
So
are writing all, I don't
yes,
know, telling people to whatever to drink the cleaning things for and
correct.
and things like that, and you remember that, and so I think in this way, communication to the public is very important, that you don't go far away. This is why, actually, I have to say, I also, people invited me several times. They say, "Oh, would you like to talk about the nutrition?" I say, "No, sorry, I don't give nutritional advices to you, because this science is still young. You have to think about it. There are few things we cite in the book. We say, yes, there are certain evidence if certain compounds are metabolized by certain microbes in that way, then you get the products which may be harmful to your constitution, but not necessarily if I tell you, well, now, if you eat like every day, like a broccoli, you will be super healthy, This is something I'm not going to tell anybody, and this is also one thing which I try to avoid, because, many people, I have to say, and as
Yeah.
I said that in the very introduction of the book, I say, this was also a part of my motivation, because actually you see now that most of the people in the field, they just talk about gut microbiota, and the nutrition, because I think this is easy way. I
True.
sell you something to drink or eat, and then you will be fine, and uh, usually it doesn't work so simple, I don't say that some of the products that contain probiotic strains or bacteria are not beneficial. I don't say
Mhm.
that. I just say that there are many people there who try to sell you a lemonade and say, "This, drink this, you'll be fine." So, and we just have to say clearly, uh, th- these things are much more complex, and there are also individual differences in microbiome compositions, and many scientists around the world are doing really hard, and they really try to streamline some of these processes of analysis, because this
Correct.
actually we have to see first you have to, to, let's say, to diagnose somebody. Let's say, not, I don't mean in a medical sense diagnose, but I mean just diagnose the status, to see the status of
Correct.
of somebody's microbiome, and say, okay, this is your composition. Maybe if we do this, maybe this will happen. Let's see, high probability this will happen,
Mm.
but we shouldn't hurry too much. I definitely encourage also every entrepreneur, who is in the field, to go on, because this is very important, to try and to see if it works or not. And I have to say, there has been a lot of interest. I mean, I have now on my list more than 300 companies at the moment, just in the application field, just trying to do applications in the microbiota field globally. Probably there are many more which I don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
which are just the young startups. There are many big companies who also got now into the field. They try
Mm.
to make products. Many people see now chance, because this is, like, as I said, it's a hot topic. Everybody see the chance. This is fine, but we have to be careful. Of course, it's good because there's a lot of people trying, so something will eventually come up.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the other side, so this is one side. The other side, as I mentioned, this is a public sector. Let's say we have also, I don't know, a friend asked me a month ago, I have somebody, it has a this ulcerative colitis,
Mm.
and do you know any place where you can get this microbiome fecal transplant? I say, well, I know the list of the clinics here. I can send you the list, but the thing is that many of these procedures have not been legalized. So there,
True.
there are very few places in the world where you can go and try such a kind of procedure, you know.
Right.
So and the banking also, this is another hot topic, you know. It's how do we
Hmm.
save microbes, you know. So
Yeah.
there are many, well, you see, we are going beyond 19 chapters, so there are still few things that actually that we didn't discuss in the book,
True.
and that still has to be discussed. So yeah.
Probably we'll get other volumes, other parts. We will get information on that.
We need. I said in the beginning. I said, look, we certainly would need an update in a few months, maybe. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So, finally, concluding our conversation. So, Vladimir, you do such an extensive work. So, where people can find you if they want to read about your work, if they want to connect to you, please tell us that, so that people would be interested, and whether where your book can be found. I know it's on Amazon, but other than that, like if you want to mention certain channels, please tell us about all these things so that people can actually get in touch with you.
Yes. So I think that this is a good point. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I mean, basically, you can find you know, my everything which is happening within my company. You can find on the website. It's microbiomepower.com. Yeah. So basically, one word, microbiomepower.com. And yes, besides that, of course, you can contact me always on LinkedIn. I'm always quite active there. And regarding all the sales channels, the best thing will be to contact Let's Author directly, so the company, the publisher company, and they can maybe
Okay.
give you all the details about all the possible sales channels, because we have in different countries, we have different sales channels. Definitely Amazon is there, the global player. And of course, you can contact me directly, or through the website and through my email. Yes, I mean, I will be always you know, happy to talk to people and to help if I can. And yeah, I have to say, I'm quite busy in the last time with other projects, but still, I mean, yeah, if you go and visit regularly, you'll find me. You'll find me there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vladimir, for your time. It was wonderful talking to you. And I would request all my readers that this is a wonderful book, I Microbiome. It will give you a comprehensive understanding about microbes, as well as you will get a clarity on how exactly our entire human body works. And there are many myths that already Vladimir told us, like regarding nutrition, diet, fitness. A lot is happening nowadays, but I think we, as our expert told us, that we need to go slow, and this book is very interesting. I have read it, grabs everything already. So that I'm a science enthusiast and I like reading books like this. So I think you can find Vladimir in all the channels he mentioned, and I'll also put all this information at the end of this video in the description. So I think we are just waiting for the some more information which are not covered in iMicrobiome. So maybe in the U microbiome we will get
Yeah.
some more.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Thanks. No, certainly. Let's see. I hope I will find some more time. There are so many things I'd like to write about. I have to say, I haven't been so active in my blogging as I would like to do. I was, like, a couple of months ago, I was much more active. But actually, you know, yeah, I'll try to catch up with that and to keep people informed about things that I find interesting, and maybe you know, just point to other, you know, places where you can find the literature and the things. And yeah, that's quite important, you know, to stay up to date.
Thank you, Vladimir, for being here, and I hope we'll meet in the near future with much more interesting things related to microbiomes with you. Thank you so much, and namaste from India. Thank you.
Thank you, Gargi. Yeah, so I'm also from Heidelberg. Yeah, thanks, and see
Bye
ya.
bye.
Bye.